Hello and welcome to Chapter 5 of Femme Party on Season 2 of the Black Hole Podcast. Femme Party is the name of a book I've written, and I'm reading it chapter by chapter. All 14 chapters equals 14 episodes of Season 2 of the podcast. I like to precursor each time I read by saying any profit or money raised from the sale of this book or any other affiliation with the book will be used to start a technology company similar to the one proposed in the book and to build a solar farm in my hometown. So go ahead and purchase the book for 99 cents off Amazon Kindle. You can search Femme Party, the title. You can also go to either of my websites, Mitch4Mayor.com, that's Mitch, the number 4Mayor.com, and find a link and description of the book, and PlotM.com, that's plot, the letter M.com. Again, you can find a description and a link to the book. So let's get started on Chapter 5. A black 1980 Beverly Malibu Classic and a green 1970 Volkswagen bus are side by side on a strip of highway that runs a quarter-mile across a causeway in Lake Wilhelm. Standing 10 feet in front of the vehicles is actress and host of the show, Racing for Change, Emma Strone, with her hands above her head. Seated in the Malibu is Mitch Miller, and in the bus is Brad Pitt. No engines rev and no exhaust smokes. A whirring can be heard. Emma sweeps her hands downward and the tires of both vehicles squeal. The two autos are neck and neck at first, but then the Malibu pulls away to an easy victory over the bus. The two vehicles pull into the marina area of Lake Wilhelm at Goddard State Park. The crew is set up in the parking lot and there are trailers and tents set up in the large parking area. Mitch, Brad, and Emma wrap up the show and Brad hands over the pink slip to his trailer. Mitch and Brad make their way to the catering tent and grab some food. Mitch says, "Well, that was great, and your trailer will be a nice addition to my friend's campground." Brad says, "I almost had you in the beginning." Mitch says, "I'm glad that Tesla decided to sponsor the show and provide all of the electric motors for the show." Brad said, "Yeah, Ian Tusk, the owner of Tesla, is also partnering with some race car drivers for the Barbuda project. He is designing a stock car that has removable batteries in the trunk compartment. The batteries can be removed by the pit crew and replaced during a pit stop. Once we build our track on the island, we will have the first ever all-electric stock car race. We think it may catch on as a sport, and so does Tesla." Mitch says, "I'm glad Netflix decided to sponsor the show as well, at least for the first season." Brad says, "They are really interested in what Angelina is doing in Franklin. By purchasing a cable system and making it public, it will really drive down the cost of high-speed internet. That means more people can spend money on the streaming services." Mitch says, "All right, man, I'm headed back to the farm. If you need a place to stay, there is the guest house." Brad says, "Very funny, my friend. I'm actually renting your parents' house using Blarty, and my fans have rented out half of Utica, so we'll be seeing each other." Mitch enters the Oil City Municipal Building and goes up to the mayor's office. Levy and Lucy are in the middle of a conversation when Mitch knocks on the door. They greet him and offer him a chair. Lucy sits down behind her desk, and Levy sits down next to Mitch. Lucy says, "Thanks for coming in, Mitch." Mitch says, "Congrats again on winning the election. How is the enactment of the new ordinance going?" Lucy says, "We got it past the council, and for the past several weeks I have been working with Northwest Union Bank and a company out of China to develop my own credit card reader. I'm going to provide these readers to every business in Oil City for free, and Northwest Union Bank has agreed to waive all fees for a business to use the machines." Mitch says, "Perfect." Levy says, "So what is the next step?" Mitch says, "We're calling it Project Barbuda. I'm going to form the Bank of Barbuda to partner with your Northwest Union Bank. Northwest and the Bank of Barbuda are going to offer special savings accounts for any resident of Venango County or the island of Barbuda. These accounts accumulate interest offered in Barbuda bucks. Barbuda bucks can be used for groceries and other essentials at your businesses in Oil City and at businesses in Barbuda. Barbuda bucks will be the official currency of the island of Barbuda. Lucy says, so you are creating a cryptocurrency? Mitch says, it's more of an electronic currency. This way the government of Barbuda doesn't have to spend money printing currency. The currency will be available on cards or on a smartphone using an app. It can be used at any business on the island. The only way more currency can be generated is through interest from a savings account. Levy says, so you want to use our card swipers on Barbuda as well? And in this case, we can collect fees for using the equipment? Mitch says, correct. Basically, there are people who want to travel the world and see architecture and ruins, and there are people who just want to sit on a beautiful beach somewhere. We are trying to incentivize people from one specific county to go to the same island year after year and enjoy all of its beauty at a deep discount. Other counties can slowly be added to the program, and each Caribbean island can start its own currency program. This way, if there is a pandemic, people will still be able to go on vacation to their island. As long as a pandemic is handled county by county and island by island, people will be free to travel. If you get people to voluntarily travel to the same place year after year, you're much better prepared to handle a global pandemic. Lucy says, you are saying that most of my constituents just want to get drunk on a beach somewhere. Should I take offense to this? Mitch says, not at all. I believe most of your constituents can't afford an island vacation. This will allow more of them to visit a beautiful island. In addition to regular savings accounts, we're going to offer a special lottery savings account. All owners of a lottery account are entered into a weekly lottery. For every $100 they have in the account, their name is entered into the weekly lottery one time. The winner of the lottery gets all of the interest accumulated that week by every lottery savings account within the banking system. So whatever interest is accumulated by all of the money in all of the lottery accounts will go to the weekly winner in Barbuda bucks. Levy says, it's smart. Maybe instead of spending money on the state lottery, people will be motivated to save it instead. Lucy says, we are changing the travel patterns of people in specific counties in order to be better prepared for a global pandemic, and we are helping people save their money for retirement. It sounds like I really care about my constituents. Which says, have you had anyone apply for the military incentive program yet? Lucy says, we're getting some applicants. After my interview in the national newspaper, I've been getting some calls from American auto manufacturers that would like to get involved with the shipping container program. I'll have Levy give you their contact info if you wouldn't mind following up. Mitch says, happy to do it. Looks like we have a lot to work on for the next several months. So we will be seeing each other on a regular basis in addition to our board meetings on video conference. I wanted to tell you in person that I am running for mayor of Pittsburgh. Lucy says, aren't you already mayor of Utica? How do you qualify? Mitch says, the borough of Utica agreed to allow me to keep my permanent residency in Pittsburgh when I became mayor. So as far as residency, I qualify. Levy says, come to Lucy's house tonight and we'll toast to direct democracy. Mitch says, I will see you both after dinner then. As always, it was a pleasure seeing you. Mitch finds himself in the City Hall of Franklin. He makes his way to the office of the mayor, where Angelina is waiting for him. She shuts the door behind him and offers him a seat. Mitch says, congrats again. I'm glad you won. How has the takeover of the cable company been going? Angelina says, the hardest part is finding competent people and fielding the call center. There are so many elderly people that lose the remote and call customer service. Mitch says, it's always hard to find the right people. You look well. Angelina says, thanks. I had a meeting with the lieutenant governor yesterday, and he is impressed with our progress. He is ready to fight for us in Harrisburg. Robin enters the office, greets Mitch, and sits down. Angelina says, once we have a public option for internet here in Franklin, what did you have in mind next? Robin says, you mentioned something about electric cars. Mitch says, I told you I would be willing to put up some of my own fortune to help people in Franklin drive electric vehicles. First, I think we need to set up a fund designed to subsidize the purchase of an electric vehicle by a Franklin resident. Next, I'm developing an app with my own resources called Litterbug. I want the residents of Franklin to beta test this new app. Angelina says, I'm with you so far, but what does the app do? Mitch says, it is an app to help catch litterers. The Litterbug app is designed to be downloaded to older phones that the owner no longer uses for their primary phone. The phone is mounted to the dash of their vehicle. The app has a voice command function. Litterbug takes up around 2 gigs of storage on the phone, or roughly a half hour of video. The phone with the app acts as a dash camera and is constantly recording video. It only stores the most recent half hour of video. So as it records, it is also erasing the video that is older than a half hour. If a driver is behind a car that litters, they can use the voice command to freeze and save the portion of the video that has the action on it. So a driver may say, save the last 5 minutes, or keep video from 2:35 p.m. to 2:37 p.m. saved. The driver can later review the video and turn it into the police. The Litterbug app also uses recognition software to automatically key in on the license plate of any vehicle. Robin says, interesting, so the culprit pays a fine to the city. Mitch says, yes, and those fines go directly to the fund that subsidizes electric vehicles. Angelina says, so we promote this fund to my constituents and introduce the new technology on a voluntary basis. Mitch says, exactly. There's another project I want to introduce to Franklin using my own funds that can be used to raise money for the electric vehicle or EV fund. Robin says, we're all ears. Mitch says, I want to design a smart traffic light system in Franklin. It would involve equipping all the traffic lights with a system of sensors and cameras. This smart light system could be used by emergency vehicles to more quickly make their way through the town. Emergency vehicles would be equipped with a sensor that would make traffic lights change so that they could pass through when their emergency lights are turned on. Angelina says, but how does this raise money for the EV fund? Mitch says, so there are multiple state routes that pass through Franklin, which bring large tractor trailers through town. My plan is to contact the major trucking companies in the area and offer them a special deal for a fee. As long as it isn't 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. or 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on weekdays, the lights will change for trucks that carry the sensor. This way, trucking companies can shave minutes off their route. If other PA towns adopt this system, they may be able to raise money from trucking companies as well. Franklin will be the pilot city for the program. The fees will be minimal at first, but over time, they could add up for the EV fund. Overall, Franklin will be safer if emergency vehicles can get through town more quickly. Robin says this could be good for snow removal in the winter. If we equip our snow plows with the sensors, we could save time and money on plowing. PennDOT might be interested in this program for their plow trucks. Cleaner roads in winter means safer travel conditions. Mitch says, I am hoping the state embraces this new system, but we may face static with the state government. We may need the help of that lieutenant governor after all. Angelina says, I'm on board and will contribute to get the fund started. Is there any way we can develop a site so that the EV fund can be managed by the people of Franklin? What I mean is, can you develop a site where the subsidies can be voted on by any resident of Franklin? We'll keep working to get the cable company expanded to every resident that wants cheap internet and wait for you to release the Litterbug app. Can you speak to the council about your traffic light idea so I can see that we get permission to do it? Mitch says, of course, I'll prepare a presentation for the next meeting. There is one other thing I wanted to bring up today. Robin says, what is it? Mitch says, I'm running for mayor of Pittsburgh. Angelina says, but with your record, do you qualify? Mitch says, only time will tell. I plan to develop a site where everyone can vote on all new laws in Pittsburgh. I'll develop the EV fund site first as a test run for managing things through direct democracy. Robin says, it will bring us closer to true democracy. I wish you luck. Angelina says, we'll have champagne to celebrate. Come by tomorrow evening around 6. Mitch says, thank you, ladies. Mitch is back in Pittsburgh in his office at the old brewery. A reporter from the Pittsburgh People's Press newspaper enters his office. The two men exchange formalities, and the reporter takes out a recording device and sets it on Mitch's desk. The reporter says, you've announced your candidacy for mayor of Pittsburgh. You've gotten the 250 signatures to be on the ballot. Why do you want to be mayor? Mitch says, as the statement from my campaign manager explained, I want to bring direct democracy to Pittsburgh, but that is only the beginning. I believe we can have a sustainable energy revolution right here in Allegheny County. The reporter says, well, your business partners seem to be well on their way to doing that in Venango County. Do you plan on using those programs here in Pittsburgh? Mitch says, the plan is to expand on those programs and develop even more that are specific to a large city like Pittsburgh. The reporter says, so you would buy the existing cable internet systems from Comcast and Verizon and develop a public internet utility? Mitch says, I don't have pockets deep enough to do that personally. I believe that the cable internet system of Pittsburgh would have to be acquired. The first step to that is to give everyone a vote. This way, law that has been passed at the state level thanks to lobbyists can be superseded by local law passed in a true and direct democracy. The reporter says, you have been outspoken in the past about wireless waves and their possible links to cancer and brain tumors. Do you plan to outlaw wireless waves? Mitch says, I don't think there are enough votes here in the city to outlaw wireless waves. I do believe that wireless waves cause certain types of cancer, brain tumors, migraines, mental illness, and possibly even autism. Even if you don't want to believe wireless waves cause these things, people should still embrace a city without wireless. Embracing a city without wireless could lead to so many other interesting avenues for our society to take. The reporter says, why an entire city without wireless? Mitch says, mobile carriers have powerful lobbyists that make sure that they can stay in business indefinitely. This includes blocking funds that might go to medical studies that can prove wireless waves cause ailments. It also means passing legislation that makes our emergency systems more reliant on wireless waves. It doesn't have to be this way, but they are just as motivated as Big Tobacco was to sell more of their products. The reporter says, why do you believe these waves cause mental illness? Mitch says, many mental illnesses include symptoms such as visual or audio hallucinations. We have powerful transmission towers that are broadcasting video images and audio signals all over our country using invisible waves. I don't see how physicians or the general public don't connect the idea that transmitting audio and video through people's brains could result in audio or visual hallucinations. The reporter says, then you believe the brain creates resistance and these waves interfere with certain people's normal brain function? Mitch says, yes, certain people may be more sensitive. Think of it this way. We are all allergic to the sun. If we get too much exposure, our skin develops burns. Certain people can spend more time in direct sunlight without getting burned, but eventually we all burn if we are exposed for too long. I believe certain people are allergic to wireless waves, and these allergies produce themselves as mental illness or the other maladies I explained. The reporter says, you want to prove it, but it is difficult with a society that is basically addicted to wireless. Mitch says, yes, but because funding for research may be blocked, I think the most logical way to prove it is to have a large population living without wireless waves. Then they can be compared to the rest of the country living in the wireless waves to see which population has a larger occurrence of cancer. We already know that the number of cases of brain cancer and brain tumors have increased since the invention of the mobile telephone. This isn't enough to deter people from spending their money on wireless waves. Nobody seems to be stating the obvious or doing the necessary research. You suffer from a mental illness yourself. Do you blame the majority of the population for causing this illness? Mitch says, I don't blame people for becoming addicted to wireless waves, just like I don't blame people for becoming addicted to cigarettes or other drugs. When we blame people, we legislate to punish, which doesn't offer the help those people need. My mental illness is treated with a medication, and I am able to function in this field of wireless waves. Others aren't as lucky as I am. I've been with these people in the hospitals. I've been in the system before. That is why I think I would make a great mayor. I've been in situations to see the inner working of our city and county and can make improvements. Wouldn't you prefer a mayor that has been in the system and knows how it works or doesn't work? The reporter says, shifting gears slightly, would you legalize all drugs as part of your plan to help people who are addicted to substances? Mitch says that would be up to the majority vote. It probably wouldn't be legalized but decriminalized. I believe that the only way painkillers should be prescribed within the city limits of Pittsburgh is in the form of a tea. The prescriber makes out an order for a packet of tea bags and gives instructions on how often the patient should make themselves some tea. The opium tea bag could last several hours instead of a pill dose. I believe this would greatly reduce the number of overdoses that occur in this country and our city. People would figure out ways to abuse the system just like any other, but it would be much harder than getting your hands on pills. This system could be applied to other illicit drugs if people voted to legalize them. They would have to be produced in tea bag dose. The reporter says, couldn't legalization cause more mental illness? Because the other theory behind mental illness is a chemical imbalance in the brain. Mitch says, sure. Promoting a clean and drug-free lifestyle is the best option. I'm just open to ways to reduce mass incarceration for victimless crimes. You can subscribe to the idea that drug abuse causes mental illness because of a chemical imbalance. You can subscribe to the idea that our bodies run on electricity in addition to the chemical reactions, and that generating electricity and transmitting it through large towers on the horizon might interfere with the individual electrical systems in the human body. The cause of the chemical imbalance could be interference with our body's electrical system, which triggers the release of chemicals. Choice is yours. If the city did legalize certain drugs and tax them, I would suggest all tax monies be used to offer free rehab to any resident. Drug rehabilitation is a much better alternative than incarceration. In fact, I believe if Pennsylvania finally legalizes recreational marijuana, that all tax money generated should be used to offer free rehab to anyone in the state. The reporter says, you said that if people embrace a city without wireless waves, it opens other possibilities. How so? Mitch says, right now, some of my friends who formed a law firm are putting forward a class action lawsuit involving those with migraines, mental illness, cancer, tumors, and autism within the city of Pittsburgh. They are suing the major mobile carriers for transmitting their waves without asking the entire city for permission. We believe they should have to ask every individual resident permission before they build a tower and transmit waves. In addition to them asking permission, the victims are asking for free wireless service. They don't believe they should have to pay for something that causes them harm. If people get on board with wireless waves causing illness, we might be able to seek free wireless service for every resident. That means tens of thousands of low-income residents getting free internet until we can develop a better system. This is just one possibility for where we could go with this type of movement. The reporter says, you're saying that by embracing wireless as a poison for many people, you can deliver internet to more low-income people to help educate themselves? Mitch says, yes, this is how we take on the wireless carriers. Deny them permission and demand free wireless service as long as they transmit through our properties. These carriers make money by guaranteeing national coverage in all the major areas. They are not going to stop transmitting wireless waves for years. More people live in the suburbs of Pittsburgh than the city proper. These people are not going to give up their wireless, and many of them come to the city for work. If we demand free unlimited service for all city residents, the wireless carriers will probably go back to charging roaming fees to offset the cost. The suburbanites will pay roaming fees to have service within city limits, and other out-of-town travelers will also subsidize our free wireless by paying roaming fees. We have a uniquely difficult to navigate system of roads in Pittsburgh, and people are going to want that wireless GPS to get around our city. The reporter says, if I understand you correctly, you are saying that if you can convince the people of Pittsburgh that they should deny wireless carriers the right to transmit wireless waves, those carriers would have to provide free, unlimited wireless service to every resident. The fact that there are more wireless users that live in the suburbs than in the city limits, and that they converge on Pittsburgh on a regular basis, would force the wireless carriers to charge roaming fees to these outsiders in order to subsidize free service to city residents. Mitch says, at first they would need to provide free wireless to those that have an ailment that could have been caused by wireless waves. Then, if city residents do not grant permission to transmit these waves, the wireless carriers would be in a position to negotiate with the residents to provide them with free unlimited service, which would provide internet to tens of thousands that may not otherwise be able to afford it. The wireless companies do not go down as villains. because they provide free internet, and the suburbanites learn to adapt to a new system. Mitch's campaign manager and high school friend, Sienna Gunther, pops her head into the office. Sienna says, "How is the interview going?" Mitch says, "I think it is going well." Sienna says, "We need to wrap it up. You have another appointment." The reporter reaches for the desk and shuts off the recorder. "I think I have everything I need. Thanks for the meeting." Mitch says, "Thank you." Sienna opens the door the rest of the way and leads the reporter out into the hallway. Mitch pulls up his PowerPoint presentation for Angelina and the Franklin City Council and saves it to a USB drive. He calls and orders flowers for his wife to his office. And that's the end of chapter 5. So, before I get into my sponsors for this episode, I always try to close by saying that I have put a smattering of technology ideas in this book that I think would be good to develop by a technology company or a startup technology company or an existing technology company. I've kept some out of the book that I would like to develop myself. One is a social media platform designed to fight misinformation on the internet. And I think it's a brilliant idea. And I'm looking for computer science people to partner up with me. I've saved some money to invest in the company and handle the business side of things and communication with investors that can vote within the company. And I want to develop this company transparently by continuing a third season of the podcast on how we build this company. But I'm looking for partners that have computer science degrees that can help me develop this social media platform. From what I've researched, I need 5 to 6 computer science people in different areas of computer science to develop a social media platform. And all you have to do is email me using the email form on either of my websites, plotm.com or mitchformayor.com. Say you're a computer science individual and that you would be interested in seeing my description of the social media platform, and I'll send you a description. Also, investors, if you are interested in investing in a social media platform that could change the world into a better place, you can email me in the same fashion, but notify me that you're a potential investor, and I can send you a description of the platform and some documents explaining the rights of investors. So, that being said, today's episode was brought to you by French Creek Farms, family camping at its best. Stay in either of 2 cabins or at any of the beautiful sites along the French Creek. It's primitive camping, but there are porta potties set up at the campground and a water source. And also brought to you by Krabby Kelly's. Get your STDs at Krabby Kelly's. That's snacks, tobacco, and drinks. Krabby Kelly's General Store and Bar in Utica, Pennsylvania. Stop by and tell them Mitch sent you. Are you planning a trip to South Korea? Do you visit frequently or just a first-time visitor? If you're in Incheon, South Korea, stop by Liquor Burger. This establishment has fine spirits and breathtaking food. Stop by Liquor Burger today in Incheon, South Korea. So that's it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks for listening. This was Chapter 5. And I also wanted to say I am opening up for questions or comments. I may make a 15th or 16th episode of this season just fielding questions and comments about the novel. So if you have a comment or a question you'd like to make, you can contact me through those email forms on either of my websites. Thanks for listening, and tune in for Chapter 6.